It's a fact. All cars will eventually break down. If you have CarShield, you can protect yourself from the high cost of auto repairs. And they're America's #1 auto protection company. Your transmission, engine, and car's computer system are all covered. Get the ultimate vehicle service protection. Call CarShield now at 800-932-1729. That's 800-932-1729.
Hi, I'm Esther Garfin, founder of Alternative Food Network and host of the Plant-Based Diet series, and I'd like to welcome you to this episode, which is one of 3 episodes we're dedicating to the topic of clean beauty. One episode is with the founder of the clean skincare company, Indy Lee. One episode is about clean makeup with Vapour co-founder Krisha Boynes. And one is about clean hair care with World Hair and Skin founder Brian Phillips. Even though this series is called Plant-Based Diet, it's not only what we eat, but what we put on our skin that's important for our health. After all, skin is our body's largest organ. And having done some research as prep for these podcasts, I can tell you that you're going to be quite shocked at what you might be putting on your skin. Today's episode is with the founder of the clean, eco-chic skincare line, Indy Lee. After successful surgery to remove a brain tumor in 2009, Indy embarked on a new journey to create a clean beauty collection dedicated to inspiring and empowering others to be mindful about what they put on their skin as well as into their body. Welcome to the show, Indy. It is so great to have you here today.
It's my honor, of course.
I'm super excited about this discussion today. I mean, as someone who's grappled with eczema for several years, I've been pretty weary about skincare products and have been really careful about what I put on my skin, in addition, of course, to my diet. And it was also probably one of the catalysts for me starting Alternative Food Network. So, Indy, could you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into clean beauty?
Of course. So it wasn't linear, right? So I did not come from the beauty industry. I'm actually an accountant, a CPA by trade, and had an incredible career, but left to spend more time with my kids and get back to basic. And it's interesting because it started in food. I have a 750 square foot greenhouse in my backyard that I'm growing, organic vegetable plants and herbs and whatnot, and started growing edible flowers, microgreens for restaurants, etc. And in 2008, I was diagnosed with autoimmune diseases, several of them, one of them being rheumatoid arthritis. And I was no longer able to work in the greenhouse or the back farm that I had put under production. I found myself as a type A personality trying to figure out what I was going to do. And the truth is I had a ton of lavender plants. I probably was growing 12 different varieties. And I have a field of calendula. And my sister announced she was pregnant. And I said I didn't want anything potentially harmful going on my soon-to-be nephew's tush. And I started to create some salves and products to unveil at her baby shower. And people said, oh my gosh, you should create a line of, clean or back then we'd call it natural, organic, etc. products. And I was like, that's not what I'm going to do, please. That's not even an industry. Because in 2008, clean beauty wasn't really on the scene. It was more farmer's market. We had Dr. Hauschka and certainly Horst from Aveda started, but it really wasn't mainstream. And I kind of laughed it off. And then I started to notice I was losing the vision out of my left eye. And November 4th, went to the doctor at 2008, and I said, something's wrong. And he sent me for an MRI, and 45 minutes later, he called and said, you need to come in. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'll come in as long as you tell me what's going on. And that's when he said, you have a brain tumor. And I said, I'll see you in 15 minutes. And so as anybody who knows me realizes that was probably the most transformational day of my life. Yeah. As I was driving to the doctor's on that gorgeous New York fall day, I realized that I wasn't an active participant. I was actually a passenger in my own life. And that for 37 years, I wasn't truly living. I was just checking off boxes of what I thought I needed to accomplish. I swore from that day on, I would live with what I call the 3 Ps, which is purpose, passion, and to be fully present. And more importantly, I knew this was happening for a reason. I didn't know what the reason was, but I knew something incredible was going to come from it and that I need to allow it. And by the time I got to the doctors, I was in a completely different state of mind. I was at peace and I knew something great would come from it.
Wow.
Doctor said, yeah, it was a really incredible. I mean, I'd come to this realization that everything happens for a reason. And my job was to stay in a positive mindset so the best possible outcome could happen, whatever that looked like. But I wasn't going to waste any moment because I didn't know how long I potentially had. We didn't know what this was. And they said it wasn't cancer, but they didn't know what it was. And so I went off to specialists. And many of them said, we don't think there's anything we can do. We don't know what this is. It doesn't look like cancer, but it's growing. And you could have as little as 6 months. Get your affairs in order. And I said, absolutely not. That's not what's going to happen. And it's so interesting because I went to my neuroendocrinologist in between the two specialists, I think it was Duke and the NIH. I said, how is this happening? Nobody in my family has anything like this. And that's when he said, we're seeing more and more of these things tied to the environment. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I eat out of an organic greenhouse. I'm really healthy. I built the greenhouse. I was working, like in the back barn. I was in incredible shape. And he said, yes, that's part of your environment. So what you surround yourself, like your entire environment, what you breathe in. And then he said, what do you put on your skin? What did your mother put on her skin when she was pregnant? We know babies are born with a toxic load. And in that moment, that thing where I said something powerful will come out of this, everything came flashing forward. And I'm like, the people say you should start a line. And I knew, I didn't want anything going on my nephew's body because I knew there were questionable ingredients in some products. And in that moment, I said, that's what this is. I wasn't listening to the science. The universe had to slap me over the head. I am going to create a line that is safe, that is effective, that looks beautiful on a shelf, which is 2008, that wasn't the case. And more importantly, I wanted to educate and empower others to live the healthiest version of their life, whatever that looked like. Because like I said, I was a passenger and not an active participant. And I didn't want anybody to ever wake up when it was too late. And so that's kind of what I would do. And I would look for a doctor and finally found one. I said, I'll do surgery. And he said, you have less than a 50% chance. I said, fantastic. Let's do it. And on April 22nd, which is Earth Day, which I took as another sign from the universe, I woke up from a long surgery the rest of my life. I got everything.
Wow. And this was in 2009. So since then, are you aware of scientific studies that show a causative relationship between some, let's say, banned ingredients in skincare and endocrine disruption and cancer, for example?
There are tons of studies out there that will say, this could be cause and effect. I mean, the one that we all know is what was happening with talc, right? We all have seen the results and what Johnson & Johnson has gone through because of talc in products and personal care products. And, I think the most important thing is there's so much fear mongering going on right now. And that's not an area that I am ever going to get involved with. For me, it's really about educating and empowering people to make the decisions that make sense for them. No one will ever know what caused my brain tumor. They have no idea. Just as we're never sure, people who died of lung cancer who smoked 5 packs a day and someone who's never smoked a cigarette in their life and they had lung cancer. And so much like that, I think it's very careful. We do know there are endocrine disruptors. We do have ties to toxicity and cancer of certain ingredients. So for us, I think it's being mindful of what we're putting on. As I like to say, I know the risks, I make the choice. And for me, it's about giving people information so they can make those choices for themselves.
Right. So speaking of the risks, and what is in skincare that's not plant-based? I mean, what are people putting on their skin that they'd be surprised to hear about?
That's a great question. I mean, there are things like I can't even say that word, ethoxylated compounds, right, that have been tied to potential human carcinogens. There are, you've got formaldehyde and formaldehyde derivatives, right, that have been linked to immune system toxicity. You've got nanoparticles where they're really trying to understand what it does and maybe harmful if inhaled, right, because of permeability across membranes. So there are all these various phthalates, which are absolutely, doctors have linked to hormone disruptors. And so it's not just one thing. It's really about the load, toxic load. It has everybody processes things differently. And so what we've done is we've created a list of ingredients that we avoid on our website and give you a little bit of information about what they are, how they could appear in an INCI list, which is the ingredient list. And INCI stands for International Nomenclature for Cosmetic Ingredients. Say that 5 times fast. Right, to understand the things that we won't formulate because they're enough where we're saying, when in doubt, formulate without.
Right. Yeah, I saw on your website that you also have, in terms of your own products, you say that you're Prop 65 and EU compliant. So what does that mean?
So the U.S. is behind in terms of their regulation compared to other countries. It's significantly. It's been 80 plus years since the U.S. has made significant changes to to the cosmetic industry, and there are a lot of suspect ingredients, and there's very little regulation. But the EU has over 1,300 ingredients banned, and so we formulate to that standard. Right? We actually are much higher than that, but we believe that this is the standard that we hold ourselves to. We are in the process of getting our products Cosmos certified. Now, Cosmos is a global umbrella, right? So you're seeing like EcoCert and Soil Association, etc. And so that's a global umbrella, Cosmos. And that is really taking things from farm to face, really looking at the agricultural process of the ingredients, to the distillation, to the manufacturing. And when I talk about manufacturing, they're even looking at what are the vats that products are created in and how are they cleaned? Because if they're clean, in quotes, products, but you're using potentially harmful detergents to clean those machines out, then, that could be going into the water table. So that's undoing what your purpose is. So it's really taking things, and everybody along that step has to be certified by Cosmos. And that's an annual audit that goes through, very, very stringent. They are measuring things and looking at things right down to, the gram in terms of what your usage are and substantiation. And so it's an annual audit that we have gone through for ourselves to get our products certified. And one by one, we're having each one go through this process to really give an understanding of what we as a brand stand for. Something I'm really proud of. And, our commitment is as those standards evolve, as new tests come out that give maybe question, say, hey, what we thought was okay, we're now looking and seeing some concern. We're willing to go back to the drawing board and reformulate as a result. So that is our commitment to our consumers. That as new, results come, we're willing to say, okay, maybe there are times we're going to have to change things as a result and evolve as the standards change.
And in terms of certification, you're talking about Cosmos. What should people be looking for on packaging if they want to buy some clean skincare products, for example?
It's a great question. And I think the biggest issue is that there's no one rule. And, what it says, quote unquote, clean for one company could be very different than another one. There's no standard across retailers, across brands. And again, that's why we have looked towards external certification. The best thing, number one, I always say the ingredient deck is your roadmap. So if you look at that INCI list, it gives you what the ingredients are in that product, and it's going to list them from highest volume to lowest, right? So that's how you read the deck, much like you would read a food, ingredient list. Yeah. And then take a look at what those ingredients are, and then understand what the brand standards are. Most brands will tell you what their standards are in terms of clean commitments. If you ask them, they should be able to give them to you. And then you can start to look at third-party regulations in terms of, Cosmos, Soil Association, EcoCert, USDA, Certified Clean, EWG. There's so many different outside parties who are going to potentially give you, their certification, and then understand what that certification entails. For us, we made a decision to go global, which is Cosmos. And so our products are either becoming Cosmos Natural or Cosmos Organic. We just felt it was, a really high standard that was recognized globally.
It's interesting when you're saying reading the labels. This is not an easy. First of all, many of them are so tiny I can't even see them. But
I go to the website.
I started looking at all kinds of bottles that I have at home. So in prep for these episodes that I'm doing now in Clean Beauty. So, for example, my husband received this from a client. So I did not buy it. I wouldn't have bought it, but I was just curious. I read the label, and some of the things it has here. It's some hand and body lotion. It says here petrolatum, right, which is probably bad. It has color. Yellow number 5, yellow number 6, and I'm sure there are many other fragrance.
And you know what? Those derivatives, things can be derived from so many different things. And it's also really hard if you hear something that said Simone Boostis Chinosis, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is that? That's a jojoba oil. Sarah Alba, that's beeswax. So what's really tricky is that INCI, that ingredient list, is, and like I said, international nomenclature. It's not what you would say like your everyday, right? You're looking at something, it could be broccoli extract, and it looks so scary. And that absolutely can be very tricky. And that's why, consumers have to do their due diligence. They need to really look at those labels, become familiar with them. Go on, Google can be your friend. Just make sure what your sources that you're looking at that to do your own due diligence. And what I like to say is know where you're buying your products, right? Look at those those certification seals on various different retailers, and know what they stand for. There's some great clean. If you have made the decision that you want to go clean, go to some of those retailers who you believe have that same ethos and same belief of what their clean matches what your definition for clean works for you. And then you can buy off of that, because a lot of them are doing that, that rigorous testing. The clean retailers like Credo, Folane, Aaliyah, Detox Market, Citrine, they're doing a lot of the work. Mm-hmm. And so you can take a look at their standards, and many of them, it's not just what's in the bottle, it's the process, right? It's the packaging. Is it regenerative? Are they, how are they doing this? And so I think the onus really becomes on the consumer. And I think that where the issue stems is people felt that if it was on the shelf, that it was already, tested, et cetera, and deemed, quote unquote, deemed safe, et cetera. And I think that what people didn't realize is that the consumer is the one who had to really do the research. And I think that's the shift that I would like to educate people on, is understanding you need to be your own advocate and take a look and decide whether or not you feel comfortable. I'm, like I said, as you can tell, I'm not one of those people who's going to say, no, don't use this. No, don't use that. I think that's where clean is getting a bad rap. And I always also point out, what is safe and perfectly fantastic for someone to use on their skin can be absolutely horrible and quote unquote toxic for someone else. And the best way I can explain it is I don't have a sensitivity to poison ivy, right?
Really?
Completely natural botanical waste. If I rubbed in a patch, I didn't even know. Most people, it can be really toxic and really harmful. And, I know people who've gone to the hospital and it's poison ivy.
Well, that's the DNA.
Right? Peanuts. Those are just very concrete examples I like to use so people don't get into this. Well, if it's not completely, plant-based, then it's harmful. I think that's where we run into issues. I think that it's a personal choice. Certainly for myself, I like to go as clean as possible, and I have what is my threshold, but that might not be the same as somebody else's. It might be even more stringent for someone than what mine is. There's no wrong or right here. It's just an education process.
And it's a big process because, again, as we were saying, these products have quite a lengthy ingredient list. So let's say you have an allergy, to try and figure out even what that allergy might be, which product is the one, which ingredient is the one that's giving you that allergic reaction, that takes a long, long time.
Oh, very much so. And so that's why when people say, oh my gosh, we see this a lot in transitional times for people. So let's say someone is pregnant or just having a baby, or maybe there was a health scare like what I had, or they know somebody. They're like, oh my goodness, and they throw everything out and they buy everything that they clean.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean, which is very expensive.
Yeah.
But still, you try all these new products. If there's one ingredient in one product, you're not going to know what it is. And so that process of elimination becomes even more difficult. And so I always say, if you're making that decision, go one product at a time. Start to take a look, at that product and start to understand. And if it works for you and it's completely effective, okay, great. Now you've got that one. Now the next time you're running low on a product, that's when you can start to do your due diligence and research on what works for you, and then make the investment in a brand and a product. But if you do it all at once and there's that one ingredient, you're just not going to know.
Yeah. But I can tell you that your company sent me some product, which I've been using for a few days. I just got it last week. And I think I have sensitive skin, and I have had zero reaction to what I've tried. It's
fantastic.
Yeah, zero. It's all great. Since we are talking, I have a question, though. I have two of the products I received. One was a daily skin nutrition, and one was a daily vitamin infusion. And I was just wondering, when would I use those? And is the daily skin nutrition only for the face, or can you use that in other body parts?
Oh, of course, you can use them on any body part. Absolutely. So the daily vitamin infusion, I'll start with that one, is really interesting. It's one of my all-time favorite products. It's got one of the ingredients that I am obsessed with, which is squalane, right? Which is, for years, we have a squalane facial oil, and that was the only moisturizer that I used on my face for years. It's such an incredible ingredient. Ours are botanically based, and so it has that product in it, right? It has that ingredient in it, but it's also got some incredible other ingredients in it, like plant-derived ceramides, right? You've got rosehip seed, you've got avocado oils, which really provide a lot of nutrients in it. So it's got vitamins A, C, and E, as well as rosemary extract, which has antioxidants. So that is a serum that I use every day, morning and night, before I use my moisturizers, right? So it is an oil-based serum. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's got that, right? Versus a lot of things are like water-based, but this one is an oil-based serum. And I like to use that every morning, every night after I've toned or exfoliated. And then on top of it, I'll use the daily skin nutrition, which is a moisturizer. So you can use that on your face. And by the way, when I use these products, I put them on my face, I put them on my chest, on my neck, and I never neglect the back of my hands on every thing I use. So whether it's an exfoliant or a serum or a moisturizer, I will put anything after I've done it on my face and my neck, I put it on my hands too, because that gets a lot of wear and tear, and it really gives things away. And so you would never know. My hands look like that of a child. It wasn't always like that, but it really is just so important. And so I use them all over my face, neck, and listen, if you wanted to use it because you're like, wow, this feels really good on my body, go ahead. I would say that's going to get more expensive.
Right.
And you probably don't need that level, but no, you can feel safe.
So I mean, you sort of talked about it in what we were just talking about, but what is a recommended morning skincare routine?
So that really depends on what the concerns of the consumer are, right? So I would say, but the steps are generally the same. So I recommend, depending on your skin type, if you're very oily, maybe tends to be more acneic, I would say, obviously cleanse your face. I tend to do a really proper, thorough cleanse at night, and may not need to really go in there with a deep cleanser in the morning, but I use like our soothing cleanser, which is in the more sensitive, it's in our sensitive category, which means it's formulated even with people who have sensitivities. But I don't have sensitive skin, but I might use that in the morning. So cleanse. Then I like to use our CoQ10 toner. So that's got hyaluronic acid in it, right? So it's got all these incredible ingredients. It's got CoQ10, which is like the mother of antioxidants. So I'll tone, which helps to remove any excess sebum, etc. And that's when I'll do my serums. So I'll use the daily vitamin infusion. I'm also, in that age category where I am thinking about, fine lines and change in texture and tone. So I also use our stem cell serum. But like I said, I'm almost 50. So that's a little bit different than, say, my 18-year-old daughter, who is really, she won't necessarily think as much of a serum, but she'll go right to a moisturizer, because a serum is really about solution-oriented, targeted. And so for her, there aren't that many things that she's more concerned with. So like where I'll use a serum, she'll just go right to moisturizer. Mm-hmm. And so after my serums, and Emily my 18-year-old does use an eye serum, really protecting that, that thin, very gentle area around your eyes. So again, cleanse, tone, serums, then moisturizer, and then sunscreen.
Okay. And do you use the eye serum as well?
I do.
Okay.
I use the eye serum. I use an eye cream. Listen, I embrace that I am getting, older and wiser. That doesn't mean I'm like, hey, sign me up for more wrinkles. So it's, more of an ounce of prevention I can use.
Got it. So that is the morning skincare routine. I got it. All right.
My night routine is almost identical. I just swap out my toner for an exfoliation. So I'll use our Radiance Renewal Peel Pad. My daughter will use the Gentle Daily Peel, as will my son, who's 21. So that has glycolic and salicylic. So they're more concerned with, imperfections showing up.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I am thinking Radiance. So a little bit different, and they don't exfoliate every day. They'll use that maybe 3 times a week. But I always say use the exfoliate agent at night, because of photosensitivity. So you want to use it at night. That's also said all your subsequent, skincare products will, do a better job because you removed any dry or, dead skin cells, any excess sebum, etc.
All right. These are great tips. And then for anyone who's listening, we also would like to thank your company for offering our listeners a coupon code, which they can find in the written description of the episode.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And if anybody has any questions, they are always welcome to DM us on Instagram, which is Indie_Lee. And I always offer this up. Part of why I created this company was to create community. Right. But I can't say that I wanted to create a community and not be an active participant. And so my personal Instagram is Indie_Lee, just INDIELEE. And if there's a consumer out there or listener that has maybe a more personal question that would like to ask, they can always feel free to DM me directly.
Okay, that's great. And then if they want to know more about the company and the products, where do you recommend that they go?
Always our website. indielee.com, INDIELEE.com. We talk about the ingredients we do formulate with, ingredients that we don't formulate. There's routine standards, so you can get to know a little bit more about Cosmos and Leaping Bunny. They're cruelty-free and have been since the beginning, but certified since 2012. When I knew there was a certification. There's a lot of information on there about, products and how to choose which product is right for you. But if you need some extra help, you can go to our chat where our customer service is always willing to help, as well as Instagram.
And, just for some context, what is the size of the clean skincare industry?
Oh my gosh. I think they're saying that it's close to over 5 billion right now. There are a lot of different studies that give different numbers, and it's also, what people are calling clean. So that's the only thing I would caution people.
Yeah, because of all the greenwashing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say this is a very personal choice. Mm-hmm. I am obviously a proponent for using clean products. Whether it's your skincare, your makeup, and there's phenomenal makeup out there. I would say when I started, it was very hard for me to use clean makeup, but now my entire product, routine is clean makeup too.
We're recording an episode with Krisha as well from Vapour.
Well, then then guys, if you want to know what I'm wearing, and you'll see me using it on Instagram too. You can get this beautiful, high payoff, color rich with brands like Vapour, which I use on a daily basis. I mean, I think that their mascara is bar none, one of the best out there. Between conventional and clean, that is the only mascara that I've used.
I haven't spoken with her yet, but I'll pass that along that you said that. Now, before we go, for our listeners who subscribe to our newsletter, they know that every month in addition to getting the most recent publications of our content, they also get a recipe. And we often ask our guests for a recipe that we will then share in the newsletter. And we did the same with you, and you graciously sent us a grilled portobello mushroom recipe.
So good. It's so good.
It's awesome. So we thank you very much for that plant-based recipe. And for those who aren't a subscriber to our newsletter and you're listening and you want to get these recipes and all that, just go to alternativefoodnetwork.com and you can subscribe to the newsletter over there. Indy, this has been great. It's been really eye-opening and an education. Again, I did some research prior to doing the recording with you, but I've learned a lot, really. And I learned a lot also from going onto your website. So your goal of trying to educate is I think, really working. At least it worked with me because I learned a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, I think it should be educational, but, obtainable too, and understandable, and breaking it down and not have people be fearful about these things. And so thank you. I'm glad that mission accomplished. I know I'm a fan of what you're creating, and I'm a fan of the ingredients. As someone of the recipes, as someone who's starting to learn how to cook, my husband's a good cook, so I'm starting to learn. I'm like, ooh, recipes. This is great. And goodness knows, right outside my door, I have a lush greenhouse with a gazillion different vegetables and herbs growing. So can't wait to dive in.
Yeah, no, we've done gardening podcasts, how to do an indoor garden, an outdoor garden. So we're a big fan of the gardening as well. But yeah, people are slowly but surely really becoming mindful of their diet. And that's why we do what we do. For us, really, it's all about food as medicine. We have another series where we just interview physicians about the topic. And in this particular series that you're on, it's plant-based eating, but there's definitely a swing towards that. So we're just trying to help people, first of all, learn, and also the practicalities of cooking.
Absolutely. Well, I think from knowledge comes power. And I learned so much I thought it was so appropriate at the beginning of our conversation because my dive into beauty really came from food.
Yeah.
And here I was not realizing it's 100%. And that's why I say, even what you're putting on your body, if you're not putting good things in, you're not going to get good things out. And that often shows up on your skin. And so it's not one thing or another, it's together.
Yeah. Well, it's that holistic approach to, again, like I was saying, when I was trying to figure out with my eczema, why do I have this inflammation happening? Why is it? It took a long time. And even today, I couldn't tell you exactly, was it a skincare product? Was it something I was eating? Was it the water? I really can't pinpoint that one thing, but kind of changing a whole bunch of things, it worked.
No, I agree. And for me, I didn't realize that you didn't have to sacrifice, by having more plant-based either. So that was a huge learning for me. But I've also learned with my journey through autoimmune diseases, really eating, low inflammatory foods, etc., and really taking a look at what I need to remove from my diet has really changed my relationship with my disease.
Oh, yeah. What have you removed that you think has been helpful?
Well, I would say a lot of processed sugars, as well as being low gluten and really being mindful of where, if I am having gluten, where is it from? So that's a big one. Eating primarily, I would say for me, it's been pescatarian, going more towards vegetarian has also made a huge shift for me. Just in terms, and if I'm eating, I would say an organic, chicken, etc. I don't have, I feel like, okay, that's fine, but I really try to limit it because I feel I'm able to get really nutrient, protein dense foods, via beans and legumes. I'm really looking into and then growing them myself and knowing how I'm growing them and creating that connection. It's a big, real shift.
I think at least the people who are listening to this series, they may not be vegan or plant-based, but they're at minimum plant forward, right? They're very interested in this and trying to incorporate more plant-based foods in the diet.
Plant forward. I think that's what I would call myself, more plant forward.
Oh my gosh, when someone asks me what I have so many different names at this point, but plant forward seems to capture it all very succinctly.
Yeah, beautifully.
Anyways, well, again, it has been great to speak with you today. I appreciate your time very much, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you found this episode helpful. As always, we'd love it if you can leave a rating wherever you're listening to the podcast. And if you want to receive our monthly newsletter with recipes and discount codes, just go to our website at alternativefoodnetwork.com and subscribe there. Lastly, if you're looking for trusted and credible information about food as medicine, we have a series called Doctors Plus. That's doctors with a plus sign, where we interview medical doctors about a variety of food as medicine topics, and I invite you to check that out as well. Until next time, thanks so much for listening. All content provided or opinions expressed in this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice. Please seek advice from your doctor or other qualified healthcare practitioner.
Not to be dramatic, but I'm obsessed with how much I just saved at Kohl's. I got 25% off Nike clothes for the kids, the cutest $39.99 flex hoodie for me, and got great Columbia gear for all our outdoor adventures. Did I mention the extra 20% off and the Kohl's cash I got? So yeah, not sure what I love more, fall deals or fall weather. Select styles, 20% offer ends October 3rd. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohls.com for details.